Episode 9 of Grand Blue Dreaming Season 2 adapts chapters 36 and 37. And can I just start by saying peak, 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 peak. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. Let's get into the changes and Easter eggs. The first change and really improvement in this episode comes in the form of the very first scene, where the anime ups the comedy by injecting the dead-eyed Chisa face in between shots of Otoya's confession. It then adds in this shot of what's been happening at Grand Blue as a reminder for the audience that Aina and Sakurako were feuding in the last episode, and that Tokita and Kotobuki are being their usual selves, but aren't naked due to having visitors. I'd say in this shot the anime makes their expressions a little more intense as well. Oh hey look, the funny Azusa face is back. Nothing else changes for a while, except the anime sadly cuts this sequence of Aina vs Sakurako that has a godly punchline from Iori at the end of it. And in turn, this shot is altered to reflect the lack of said scene. For some reason, Azusa is missing from this shot. The anime then omits this little visual of Chibi Chisa during Iori's inner monologue. When Kohei returns, he brings back his chainsaw that he almost used on Iori in episode 2 of this season. Later, when Sakurako interrogates Otoya, the anime adds in a visual of Chisa, but cuts the part where she asks about Kohei. It also cuts these panels and goes straight to Iori's punishment the next day. This chapter's final panel has Azusa and Chisa checking in on Aina with Keiki Makeup Pro Max on. The second half of the episode adapts chapter 37, but completely skips the scene where Sakurako goes to Bar Roots to get advice from the manager from episode 8 of season 1. Everything's the same for a while until this scene, where these panels are removed. Mainly due to the anime aging up the first years to 20, therefore making these panels no longer applicable. Not a change, but this scene is so funny for no reason. Iori then makes a reference, something 2 nickels, because this is the second time Grand Blue has pierced the heavens in this season. The anime then skips over nearly all of the strategy meeting at Bar Roots, which is like 11 pages, making it the biggest omission in this season so far. Which is a shame, because it's got plenty of comedy, along with getting to see Sakurako interact with the rest of Peekaboo, and even has a rare Sakurako and Kohei bonding moment. But I get it. This episode used its entire runtime, and this chapter is like 70 pages, so naturally things have to get cut. But on the bright side, this panel was salvaged when Sakurako has a flashback to it later on, which in my opinion is a good compromise for the limited runtime. But before that, the anime then changes the manga's full moon to a waxing crescent instead. Timeline video coming in 4 weeks. And then everything's adapted 1-to-1 for the rest of the episode, cause it has some pretty important moments that are not to be messed up. And finally, the last panel of this chapter features Best Girl literally being Best Girl. Something worth noting is when Iori gets asked on a movie date at the end of the episode. It doesn't say it's from Aina, which is a little odd, but either way, context clues from this line would have already allowed anime-only viewers to piece that together. Overall, this became my new favorite episode of this season. I know, I say this every week, but I also mean it every week. This work is everything to me, and it's a shame that the Bar Roots scenes were cut short, but I did notice the animation quality of this episode was significantly better than the beginning of the season, so that's a bonus. Though the main thing I love about this episode is that it's the first time anime-only viewers get to finally see the real Sakurako. For the last few weeks I've been spamming the words best girl, and that's because I believe Sakurako, and by extension, Grand Blue has the best cast in fiction. And a major part of that is how every character is flawed in one way or another. So they really feel human at times, and Sakurako does this with flying colors, as she's not afraid to be herself despite having a major flaw of being shallow. And this obviously gets expanded on the further you get into the manga. That and her introduction into the story just made the narrative even more enjoyable to read for me. And obviously this is still comedic work, and personality traits are bumped up to 11 for gags and such, but at the end of the day, the true writing for each and every character in Grand Blue just feels really special. I'll see you next week.